Hi everyone, and welcome to the Extraordinarily Ordinarily episode 2. So today our special guest is Kak Ngah. She is the founder of AWAS Malaysia. She's also a suicide loss survivor and a mental illness fighter. Welcome Kak Ngah to my show. Alright, so you are the founder of AWAS Malaysia. Would you mind telling us what is AWAS Malaysia? Why did you start it and when did you start AWAS Malaysia?
Okay. AWAS Malaysia stands for Awareness Against Suicide Malaysia. So the acronym is AWAS. It's a catchy name and it's supposed to get people's attention, like AWAS Malaysia, take caution Malaysia. So I am the founder of AWAS Malaysia. AWAS is still new. It's a movement with three main objectives. Number one is to create suicide awareness. Number two is to provide mental health and suicide prevention work. And number three, to support postvention work. AWAS is still new. Like I said, it's only 1 year old, so it's still a baby. Under the postvention work that we do, we have a group of suicide loss survivors. It's called HUG group. HUG stands for Healing Untold Grief Support Group. So this group is meant for survivors of suicide loss. We come together and we, share our grief and support each other.
So why did you start? What pushed you to start AWAS Malaysia in the first place?
I started AWAS Malaysia personally because I am a suicide loss survivor. 10 years ago, when I lost a loved one to suicide, there was no support group whatsoever in Malaysia. It was a really painful, dark and lonely place. And then I didn't know where to go or what to do. I tried. I went to organizations that advocate for suicide prevention, but there were none for suicide loss survivors per se. So I guess almost 10 years down the road, I've decided to start AWAS Malaysia, advocate for suicide awareness, suicide prevention and postvention. Postvention is actually support specifically for people who have lost loved one, friends to suicide. Postvention work is actually very, very important because research has shown that suicide loss survivors are at higher risk of being suicidal themselves.
Okay, so you mentioned that you've lost a loved one to suicide. Would you mind telling us how did that affect you mentally and emotionally?
When I lost a loved one to suicide, all I wanted to be was strong for the people around me. So the grief didn't hit me right away. Like I was trying to channel it to something else. I opened up a cafe, and I was busy. In psychology, it's called defense mechanism, where I channel the pain to something else, and I was sort of okay, denying, suppressing everything, all my emotions. But then when another grief hits me, that's when I lost it all.
The floodgates opened.
The floodgate opened, and it affected me, like my function. Like I became depressed. I was really depressed. I was crying and crying for no reason. Because it has happened so long ago that I can't really. It didn't seem like I was crying because of that, but actually it's like a all suppressed emotion coming out. Although it's been years, but it started to it started to come out. And what made me want to seek help professionally was when I was the anxiety, the depression. I could hide still. I was like pretending and all that. Although like I was feeling, I couldn't get out of bed and couldn't send my kids to school and all that. Like couldn't really function. But the anxiety was the one who because one time I was driving on a highway. I was on my way to Seremban actually, and suddenly I couldn't breathe. I couldn't breathe.
Just out of the blue.
Out of the blue. There was no nobody honking.
No signs.
Nothing. It was just like suddenly I was sweating profusely. I was, having my heartbeat was going fast and
palpitation,
and like not butterflies, but kangaroo, whatever in your stomach. It was in my stomach. So I was scared, and I had to pull over, park on the side of the road, and calm myself down and all that. And then I noticed I forget things. I was forgetful. I would enter the bathroom, open the tap and leave the tap open, and leave the bathroom, things like that. Keys, I was forgetting keys and all that. So it really affected my daily functioning. That was my point. That was my cutting point. And I said I need to seek help. My friends encouraged me to seek help, and I'm glad I did, because I guess that's my motivation too. Because I got better, because I felt better after seeing a psychiatrist, after being on medication. And I must say that I have a very, very supportive and compassionate doctor. And she was very encouraging of my well-being. And at that point of time, when I was seeing her, that was the lowest, darkest place I've ever been. Another reason why I was saying I wanted to seek help, because I was also having suicidal thoughts myself. I got scared. I got really scared because of course I don't want to be in that situation. I don't want to keep thinking of dying, but it felt like there was no hope. It felt like like you question life, you question the meaning of life and all that. So that was a time where I wanted to do better. I need to do something about it.
During that time, did you get any kind of support from anyone? Since you mentioned that there were no peer support from fellow suicide loss survivors, so what kind of support did you get at that time?
Okay, basically I lost my best friend, but one best friend. I had few other friends who were really supportive, really encouraging. Were not judgmental. Were not not only not judgmental of what had happened to me, but they were not. Also not judgmental of my condition, because it was a long process. It still is. I'm still working on my struggles. What surprised me is I found new set of friends. There's a girl who does advocacy work, and I admire her. I really admire her for that, because advocacy work requires someone to be vulnerable, right? Yeah. To say, this friend of mine, she has a syndrome where it's not easy for people, people in her shoes to be saying all these things. I wanted to be close to friends who were empowering, who were inspiring, So, and alhamdulillah, now I have new sets of friends too who are really into mental health and supportive. And
you sought professional help when you reached your cutting point, right? Would you mind sharing what you were diagnosed with, and what are the symptoms that you experienced?
Okay, doctor diagnosed me with MDD and GAD. MDD is Major Depressive Disorder, and GAD is Generalized Anxiety Disorder. So I was dealing with both. According to her, she believed that I started off with being depressed, and then because the depression was not dealt with, was not treated, the anxiety kicked in then. So I asked her what happened if I just keep on ignoring, because it's been so long. The experience of loss was almost 10 years ago, but only then, only now it's affecting me physically and all that, mentally. So So she said, yeah, the danger is you could, if it goes untreated, it could get worse. Like it could, you could become like psychosis, depressive psychosis, you know. And psychosis is even worse, a lot worse, because then you lose touch with reality. Yeah. I hold space for people who are struggling with psychosis. But as much as possible, the reason why I want to advocate as well is because, you know, I want to tell people to not wait until it's so bad, until you become so suicidal, you know, either your thoughts or behavior. I wasn't suicidal in action, but I was struggling with a lot of suicidal thoughts, and you know, I just hope that people don't have to wait until they are so depressed, so severely depressed or suicidal that they, you know, that they want to go, then only want to go and seek help. So the symptoms of depression is, for me, I'm sure, you know, I can't answer for everyone, because, you know, different people have different experience, but the typical ones, you know, I was very low, I was just sad, and like there was no hope, there was just no meaning to life. At that point of time, I was feeling very sad. I didn't want to get up. I didn't want to get out of bed. I didn't want to meet people. I didn't have the energy to get up. My symptoms of anxiety were like all those, you know, that I mentioned earlier: the palpitation, the worry, the feeling of hopelessness, unrealistic worry. But it was realistic for me, you know, like it was real for me. You know, mental illness is so real, so, you know. But that's the thing, like when you believe, you feel it, you believe it, but people think you're just, sometimes people think like you're making it up, or, you know, it's not real, or sometimes people can be dismissive, and it gets, your world becomes smaller, you know, because you feel like it's so hard to make people understand what it is, you know. And
I think it's hard for people to understand because it doesn't make sense to them. Although it makes sense to you, but it doesn't make sense to them. I think that's why it's so difficult for people to understand the condition of people with mental health issues.
Right. But the problem is, okay, for example, like cancer, diabetes, whatever physical condition, physical health, right? It's easy for people to be compassionate, to have sympathy for people who have physical illness, but not mental illness, you know. Just because you can't see it, just because it's invisible, doesn't mean it's not there, doesn't mean it's not true, you know. We have to deal with one ourselves, not only the stigma, the perception, the negative perception, the, you know, people being dismissive, people, you know, ridiculing us and all that. But self-stigma is another thing. Self-stigma is us people who are dealing with mental health issues, absorbing or taking into or internalizing all the stigmas, you know. It's worse enough that people are stigmatizing you. It gets really bad, worse, and, you know, it becomes hot, you know, awful when you self-stigmatize.
You end up judging yourself as
right.
well.
When you have, you know, you don't have compassion for yourself, when you become judgmental of yourself, when you hate yourself. I think some, again, I can't speak for everyone, but I think people become suicidal because they feel like they're not good enough, they're a burden to other people.
Okay, so we all know that there is a stigma against people who died by suicide, but is there also a stigma against those who have lost loved ones to suicide?
Oh yeah, most definitely. Behind the screen, people are mean. People can be so mean behind the screen. As we know, there are extreme cases of cyberbullies even in Malaysia, everywhere. Even people have, we're talking about nations, young adults have ended their lives because of bullying, cyberbullies, and, you know. Honestly, I worry too, because I feel like to advocate for this is not easy. People who don't understand, or people who are committed to not understanding you, will keep on hating whatever it is that you try to advocate for. Or even some close people around us are, of course, some were dismissive, some denied that happened. A lot of people pretend nothing happened. I guess to be fair to those people, around us, sometimes I feel like they don't know what to do or how to say, like the do's and don'ts around people who have loss. This kind of loss, it's just so devastating that people don't know how to handle you. So it's not right. It's not right to be dismissive or not bother or not care or pretend it didn't happen. We feel like we are ignored. Our pain is being ignored. I feel like my struggles were not valid. And I had to find people, like really scour for help and support, and find people who would validate these things, because having a mental health condition, it's not easy. Number one, it's not easy. People struggling with mental health condition, are stigmatized, and they struggle to reach for help or to reach out for help, or people don't want to reach in to help. Of course, we know as Muslim, in Islam, even we know that suicide is haram. It's considered a big sin. I find comfort in hadith, I believe, that says the pen is lifted on 3 occasions. Even recently, Mufti Ming commented on this. The point is, we don't know what condition or what mental state a person was dealing with when they took their lives, and it's not for us to judge. I think the worst thing that people can say to you is, oh, this person goes to neraka, this person is ahli neraka, this person tak ada iman. It was really painful when I was going through this, and all you wanted, when that just happened, all you wanted is space to grieve. But I was also dealing with the pain of like judgments and and stigma and shame and everything.
How are things going on for you now? Do things get better with time, or does the grief remain the same?
There is not a day goes by that I don't think of him. They say time heals, right? I don't quite agree to that. Time cannot heal if you don't work on healing, I feel. Because as time goes by, you're just going life goes on. Your life goes on, but when you don't confront or deal with your pain, or work on your pain, work on your healing, I don't think time really heals, but it's something that you have to work on.
I think that's very profound. Time doesn't heal unless you work on healing yourself.
Right.
It's very profound. Yeah. Okay, so is there anything that you would like to say to our audience, especially those who may be contemplating suicide, or those who have lost their loved ones to suicide?
For people who are contemplating suicide, I would tell them to stop. Stop. For instance, they are thinking about it. They are wanting to act on it. Stop. I want to echo Kevin Hines. He's a suicide attempt survivor. He's an American, but I listen to his talks a lot. He goes around the nation to speak on suicide awareness and prevention. And I want to echo what he says. He said, if someone is suicidal or thinking about suicide, tell them to stop and breathe. Stop and breathe. When you're like having all these thoughts, your thoughts don't have to be an action. You don't have to, even if you're struggling with it, it doesn't have to be an action. Try to stop, pause, do whatever you can to take your mind off those thoughts. There are a lot of techniques to calm yourself down, or breathing techniques and all that. Please seek for help if you're suicidal. Please, there's no shame in having struggling with your mental health. Really, there is hope. You can get better. You can feel better. For people who have lost a loved one, friend to suicide, also please believe that there is hope. Although you feel like it's the end of the world, although the shame and the guilt and all the pain that you're going through, it can get better if you're surrounded by people who are supportive, who are encouraging, who are compassionate about your pain. And please reach out to AWAS. We're still a small group, but all of us in the group, in the Healing Untold Grief support group, are only meant for suicide loss survivors. Mm-hmm. So we're all peers. We all support each other, and please believe there is hope. Please don't lose hope. Please reach out. Even if you don't want to be a part of the group, some people are very worried of their privacy and all that. It's okay, it's fine. But reach out to someone.
Thank you, Kak Ngah, for appearing on my show today, and I hope that whoever is watching will learn from what you have experienced, and what you are doing is so profound and so good, because we do, as a society, we do need to stop the stigma against those who have died by suicide, and also the suicide loss survivors, because they are human beings and we really cannot judge someone. You can follow AWAS Malaysia on Instagram. If you feel the need to reach out, please do. And there is no shame in seeking help. So thank you for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next episode.
Here's my poetry. I wrote this on the 19th of September 2019. Before I was diagnosed, before I went to the doctor actually. Do you know what it feels like to lose someone to suicide? Exactly, not a clue, right? Aku sesal dan kesal. Maafkan aku bebal. Ada degree psikologi konon, but failed to see you were troubled and so alone. Ku kata kau attention seeking. Ku fikir elok saja kau dimarah. Thinking. Walhal kau pernah berdiri di hujung situ, aku tetap bebal dengan pendirianku. Memaling muka mengharap ia berlalu. Mengaku lemah, ku pasti kau tak mahu. The pressure mounted, your mental health deteriorated. You didn't want to be a burden. As a result, we lose you out of a sudden. My assumption was far from right. You took your life that night. No, it was not seeking for attention. It was certainly a grave plight. Charming and loved by many, smart enough to be nominated a valedictorian. You made us all very proud. But what the hell? Boys don't cry, men up, they say. You suffered in silence, fighting battles and demons we know nothing about. Sekarang aku pula yang menghidapi penyakit depresi dan anxiety ini. Suhul melampau, jantungku kencang, perut mengulas, peluh sebesar ibu jari. Siang dibelenggu, hiba tak bertepi. Malam diganggu, mimpi-mimpi ngeri. Penyiksaan jiwa kau dah lenyap. Kini ku tanggung derita dalam senyap. Aku dah habis esak. Aku dah tak larat penat. Aku kian hilang kudrat. Benak fikiranku semakin sarat. God knows I've committed a crime for ignoring all the signs. Forever I will be locked up behind those invisible bars of guilt. Aku bersalah, sangkaanku kau hanya tagihkan perhatianmu. Aku bersalah kerana tak sedar engkau dalam kemurungan. Kekuburkan di bawah penyesalan ini, deritaku tukar sumpah dan janji, pemangkin pendidikan dan pengajaran agar kesihatan mental tidak lagi dipandang ringan. Ku meniti pusara sepi, kasih dan ingatan segar tak henti, mencari maksud dan juga erti. Keyakinanku penuh, tiap ajal di tangan ilahi. Ku serah segalanya pada Yang Maha Mengetahui.